recognize that, then the first thing I say is, my goodness, I'm only controlling my life 5% of the time with my wishes and my desires, and 95% of my life is coming from the habits that other people gave me. So I'm not even living my own life. I'm really living somebody else's life.
But you can change the subconscious mind. It takes a bit of work, but you can change it.
Oh, absolutely. If you couldn't change your subconscious mind, I sure as heck wouldn't be on this camera right now, because that would be the worst story in the world. I'd have to say, just like the gene people, I say, well, I'm sorry, that's your life. You can't do anything about it. But boy, are we lucky, because we can change the subconscious mind. And if you know how to do this, then you can change the beliefs that are limiting us and rewrite the beliefs in the subconscious mind to support your health and your life and your wishes and your desires, so that your subconscious mind agrees with your conscious mind. And since your conscious mind is you, then even when you're not paying attention, your subconscious mind will still be creating behavior that will support everything that you want in your life.
Well, what about the medical community? Have they moved forward in the last 20 years? Are they still stuck in genes determine life? Are they starting to accept epigenetics?
Yeah, it's very interesting, because when I started learning about the epigenetics, which was 40 years ago, at that time science was really strictly thinking genes controlled everything. And then over the last 40 years, slowly they started to recognize that the environment has an influence, but they still kept the environmental influence as a very small part. But they acknowledge, okay, the environment is influential, but you're basically still your genetic readout. It's only been in the last, well, the new science called epigenetics, the name of the science is only since about 1990. And slowly they started to recognize that the environment, at first they only thought had a small part. And every year they start to see the environment is greater and greater and greater. So they're finally coming near where I have been for 40 years, because I immediately said, oh, if the environment controls it, then you know, that would be the most important thing. So I jumped right away. They were, of course, conventional scientists. You got to wait. And it's like, it was already clear, but you can, you know, look at people's lives and see those people that make a change in their lives, those people that don't make a change in their lives. The difference is the people that have different beliefs. And so for me, it was more exciting to let's just go right to the beliefs and give people the power back.
And that's one of the reasons why the placebo effect works so well, because people actually believe that.
That is a placebo effect. That's the whole idea of it. You can essentially cure yourself of any illness with the belief system. And it didn't, so really it says the placebo effect overrode the genes. But we're talking about the placebo effect, so this is the most important fact. Most everyone's heard, oh yes, the placebo effect. If I have very positive thinking about the medical treatment, then it's going to work, even if that treatment is a sugar pill. So it turns out, well, it wasn't the treatment, it was the belief in the treatment. So we say, oh yes, this very positive belief is what brought health. And what I really laugh about is it's not just the power of the positive belief, because negative belief also has a power, and it's an equal power, but it works in the opposite direction. So while a positive thought can heal you, a negative thought can absolutely kill you.
And that would be, for example, with people whose mother and grandmother have had cancer, and they believe that they're destined to get breast cancer as well. That's
the primary the cause of it is the belief system, but also a cancer is related to how you live your life, because we're talking about the environment influencing it, and if you are responding to the environment in a not very healthy way, then that bad response to the environment actually is what causes the disease. A very simple point, that when children become adopted by families that have cancer in the family, the adopted child will essentially get the cancer at the same rate as any of the children in the family, but then you have to recognize, but the adopted child came from totally different genetics. It was being in the family that caused the cancer, not being with the genetics. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, well then it's, what is that? Well, that's the behaviors that were learned and how to respond to life by observing the parents, okay? So it's important that negative thoughts, negative beliefs, rather than the placebo, which is positive, science already has a word for the negative. It's called nocebo. And why is it relevant? It's the power of belief that's powerful. not the power of positive belief, because negative belief is equally powerful, and people have to own that. If you go out during the day and say, oh, that's not going to work, or this can't happen, or I don't think I'm going to be able to do this, saying those words are the equivalent of the nocebo effect. And just as much as the placebo words will bring you the health and harmony, the nocebo words will undermine your health, undermine your abilities, and actually cause you to fail in your life. So what's most important is that we have to talk to people about the beliefs. And again, look at the difference. People have learned about the placebo effect, but nobody talks about the nocebo effect, and yet that's where the problems come from. So it's time for the world to wake up and recognize your negative thoughts, your negative beliefs, the things that you have doubts about, turn into biology. And you will manifest those as much as you could manifest health with a positive belief.
So, to make a quick summary, we are what we believe, we have responsibility, or we are responsible to a greater extent for our own life. What 3 tips would you give to people to make a change in their life? What's the best of Bruce Lipton?
Well, the first thing is this, is to recognize that you're not a victim, that you are fully empowered to transform your life at any time. That you have to recognize that positive beliefs alone don't work for a very simple reason, is that we have 2 minds, and this is perhaps the most important understanding. We have the conscious mind, which is creative. It's the conscious mind that's connected to your spirit and your who you are. And it's a subconscious mind, which is more like a recording tape player. It records your habits, and then when you push the button, it plays it. We now know from science that we only operate our life 5% of the time from our conscious minds. Well, if the conscious mind is the one that has your wishes and things in it, then it says, well, the main reason we have problems in life because I have great desire to be healthy. I have a great desire to marry someone and be successful in my relationship. I say, yeah, but that comes from the 5%. If you have negative programming in the subconscious mind, that runs 95%. And so you have to recognize that we have to go in and change our unconscious behavior. And then I would then emphasize at this point, it's called unconscious behavior, subconscious behavior. That means when you are playing these negative traits, you yourself don't even see you're playing them. And that's why we think of ourselves as victims, because when something doesn't work out, we think, well, I wanted to be successful and it didn't work. So obviously something is against me. And it's like, yeah, what's against us is our own invisible beliefs. So we have to go back and say the problems came from ourselves, not from the outside. That's where personal responsibility comes in.
And how would you reprogram the subconscious mind?
Well,
you talk about your life changing dramatically in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
What have you done to write the...
The first thing is I learned that the subconscious mind and the conscious mind don't talk to each other. So you can learn something with your conscious mind, but it doesn't go into the subconscious mind. They're 2 different places for information. So this is why people have failure with, they read a self-help book, for example, and they know everything they should be doing, and they understand, yes, this is how life could be better, and yet, even though they know all this, their lives still stay the same. And the issue is, because the conscious mind learned that, but the information didn't go to the subconscious. There's also a tendency, which I also had when I started, and most people have, is that you say with your conscious mind, you keep telling yourself, you talk to yourself. So I'm talking to my subconscious mind, like, you could do better. You know, I would say, my conscious mind says, Bruce, you got to start eating better. You got to stop eating all this sugar and all this stuff. And I say, yeah, this is good. I'm going to change my life. And then 10 minutes later, I have a donut, and I'm eating a donut, and I'm going, what are you doing? You know, and it's like the subconscious mind had me eat the donut. So well, I just talked to the subconscious mind. I go, the subconscious mind is a machine. There's nobody inside there. So when you think you're talking to somebody, there's nobody listening. And so you're wasting your time getting mad at yourself, because that's what we do when you keep repeating. It's like, don't eat the donut, don't eat the donut. And after you say it 100 times, you get so mad, and you're still eating the donut. And then you get mad at yourself, and that makes things worse, because then what you're showing yourself is, I'm a failure. Even if I don't want to eat the donut, I'm still eating the donuts. Then you feel, oh, I'm a victim again. And my point is, if you understand that the subconscious mind learns differently, then you begin to understand that if you want to change it, you can't change it by talking to it. And this helps us right away.